Hey, Shalom, this is the brother Abad. You're back here once again. Before I get started, like always, I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Chachak, double honors to my elder apostles, a great millstone, men that I learned the truth from. Shalom to the hopeful lit. We're going to go into the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2. So, start with verse 1. It reads, "For the ungodly said, reasoning with themselves, but not aright. Our life is short and tedious." Notice it says not aright, meaning their understanding and the way they perceive things is not right. They say our life is short and tedious. YOLO, you only live once. Salakia. It says our life is short and tedious, and in the death of a man there is no remedy. Neither was there any man known to have returned from the grave, which is false, because if you believe the scriptures, that Lazarus returned from, what would be perceived as death. You know that our Lord Hamashiach Yahushua raised a little girl from what would be perceived as death. Matter of fact, let me get that real quick. And most of all, our Lord Hamashiach Yahushua, we know that he himself was raised from what would be perceived as death. But if I can find it, bear with me one moment. Let's go up. Let's see. Yeah, this is Luke. Let's go to Luke chapter 8. Luke chapter 8, verse 49. It says, "While he yet spoke, there cometh one from the ruler of the synagogue's house, saying to him, Thy daughter is dead, trouble not the master. But when Yahushua heard it, he answered him, saying, Fear not, believe only, and she shall be made whole." So like I said, if you believe in scriptures, then death is not really what you perceive it to be, through the flesh. So this is continue reading verse 51. "And when he came into the house, he suffered no man to go in, save Peter and James and John and the father and the mother of the maiden. And all wept and bewailed her. But he said, Weep not, she is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn, knowing that she was dead." See, that's that carnal shit that we just read about in Wisdom of Solomon. Right? They laughed at the Lord, perceiving she was dead. Right? Verse 54. "And he put them all out, and took her by the hand and called, saying, Maid, arise." So he basically told him to get the fuck out, So he told the young woman, arise. Arise from what we would perceive as death, for she was just asleep. Verse 55. "And her spirit came again, and she arose straight away, and he commanded to give her meat. And her parents were astonished, but he charged them that she should tell no man what was done." So that should put fear on you and give you understanding that when someone, quote unquote, dies, or what you perceive as death, and not really dead, they're just asleep. And the spirit itself, you can't, kill a spirit. The spirit is from the Father, the Most High. It's a flame. It's it's what keeps the body alive. So if your body dies, your spirit is still in the spirit realm, waiting to be called back into a vessel. That's just how it works. But the unwise, the foolish, the carnal of this world will say, "Oh no, you only live once, so we gotta, live the best of our lives to the fullest how we want to do it." All right. But let's continue reading. Bear me 1 second as I go back to Wisdom of Solomon, 2nd chapter. All right, it says, continuing in verse 1, and in the death of man there is no remedy. So they don't believe that, you can conquer death, but we just read that our Lord, Mashiach, conquered death. Overcame death. We just read that, right? He said, neither was there any man known to have returned from the grave. We just read that, the Lord woke a girl up from what you would perceive as death. And we know about the story of Lazarus, right? Verse 2. For we are born at all adventure, and we shall be hereafter as though we had never been. For the breath in our nostrils is as smoke, and a little spark in the moving of our heart, which being extinguished, our body shall be turned into ashes, and our spirit shall vanish as the soft air. And our name shall be forgotten in time, and no man shall have our works in remembrance. That's a goddamn lie, because the scriptures speak about the righteous being put in the book of remembrance. Matter of fact, before we even get to the book of remembrance, which is going to be in the kingdom of heaven, we read about righteous men in the scriptures. So they are remembered. Jeremiah, Daniel, Ezekiel, Enoch, Elijah, so forth and so on, Abraham, these great men. We read about them all the time. Movies are made about them. So the ungodly are fucking stupid. But this is Malachi, the 3rd chapter, verse 16, right? It says, then they that fear the Lord and spoke often one to another. We speak often one to another through these videos, these lessons, these spiritual video epistles. It says, and the Lord hearkened and heard it, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Yahweh Shem Yahushua, and that thought upon his name. So that cuts that shit that the ungodly would say, oh, ain't nobody gonna remember us. It's a goddamn lie. The elect gonna be remembered. It's you wicked whose name's gonna be blotted out. All right? And not remembered. Okay? Continuing in verse 4. And our name shall be forgotten in time, and no man shall have our works in remembrance, and our life shall pass away as the trace of a cloud, and shall be dispersed as a mist that is driven away with the beams of the sun, and overcome with the heat thereof. Verse 5. For our time is a very shadow that passes away, and after our end there is no returning, for it is fast sealed, so that no man cometh again. That's bullshit. All right? They saying there is no returning, and no man cometh again, and that's why these people are so wicked, because they think that they're not gonna come back on the earth. But you're vastly mistaken. Not only are you gonna return back on the earth after you quote unquote died, but you've already been on the earth, and you've already quote unquote died a plethora of times. You've had other incarnations. I don't have to go deep into that, how that works, but just know that there ain't such thing as YOLO, man. Okay? Verse 6. But this is what happens when you don't have the gift of wisdom, the gift of understanding, all right, the gift of the truth to actually know what the fuck's going on. It says, verse 6, Come on, therefore, let us enjoy the good things that are present, and let us speedily use the creatures like as in youth. So they want to bask in carnality, lust, desires, passions, and wants, right? It says, let us fill ourselves with costly wine and ointments, and let no flower of the spring pass by us. Let us crown ourselves with rosebuds before they be withered. Let none of us go without his part of voluptuousness, which means, to be, goes hand in hand with gluttony and making oneself fat with whatever carnality that you have or whatever passions and desires and possessions that you have. All right. Let us leave tokens of joyfulness in every place, for this is our portion, and our lot is this. Actually, that's true. That is their lot. That is their portion. Because really, these people are just extras in the Lord's movie. They're not the elect. They're not the elites of the wicked. So their lot is to be in revelings, to be parties, you know, to be engulfed in a lot of folly. That's their lot. That's their purpose. You know, their purpose isn't to serve the Lord. All right. So what else are they gonna fucking do except, you know, do wickedness and folly? Okay. Let's see. Verse 10. It says, "Let us oppress the poor, righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the age." And even though most old people in today's time are fucking fools, you do have a lot of wise old people out here, but people don't regard them. People don't give a fuck. You know, people want to do what they want to do. All right, we live in a very low vibrational society time period. These people are degenerates, stupid. They're on all type of drugs. All right, and they're completely wicked. They're just bugged out of their fucking minds. Verse 12, it says, Therefore let us lie in wait for the righteous, because he is not for our turn, and he is clean contrary to our doings. He upbraideth us with our offending the law, an objection to our infamy, the transgressings of our education. The transgressings of our education. Yeah, they say, oh, let us go against the righteous, since the righteous people want to rebuke us and correct us and teach us about spiritual things and not worldly things. That's why these people don't want to hear the word when we're out in the highways and byways. They don't want to click on these videos when they're uploaded on YouTube. You know, they want to listen. They want to look at skits of Drewski mocking the Israelites. All right, that makes them feel good. That makes them feel vindicated. That makes them feel comforted. Like, yeah, that's some bullshit them guys are doing. You know. But you got to remember, the wisdom of this world is foolishness to the Most High. All right? What they perceive as wisdom is actually stupidity. Verse 13. This is the wicked speaking about the righteous. He professeth to have the knowledge of the Most High, and he calleth himself the child of the Lord. That's what we do. We call ourselves Yasha'Allah, sons of the living power. Oh, like, what are you doing? These people, man, are so fucking crazy. Salakia. Verse 14. He was made to reprove our thoughts. And that's the elect, you know. The elect have been called since the beginning. You know, they were prophets in their past lives. They've been called since the beginning to reprove the wicked. All right? When you read the scriptures, the righteous are constantly reproving the wicked, correcting the wicked, because that's their job. Shit, the righteous even correct and reprove the righteous if need be. Why? Because we uphold ourselves to the standard in the word of Yahweh Shema Shah. All right? That's how we live our lives, and that's how we teach people should live. All right? The Lord created planet Earth, and he gave man decrees and standards to live by on planet Earth. Not just YOLO, do as thou wilt, and run amok with no order and no self-control on planet Earth. Not fearing your creator. All right? Verse 15. He is grievous unto us even to behold, for his life is not like other men's. His ways are of another fashion. Yeah, we are not of the world. We are of another fashion. Like John tells us, if we were of the world, then the world would love us, for the world loves its own. But because we are not of the world hateth us. So they don't like, shit, matter of fact, this past camp, last Saturday, You know, you had we wasn't even, you know, sometimes bros may get in the spirit, start, you know, getting a little loud or start rebuking people. We wasn't even doing that. We was just calmly talking in a low tone amongst ourselves, you know, about the prophecies, going into the prophecies. The nigga just come by and he says, look at this shit. All right? We ain't say nothing to him. We ain't say nothing to nobody else. We ain't say nothing about him. We ain't say nothing about nobody else. Cause you know, sometimes we can get on people. We was just fucking talking about the prophecies amongst ourselves. And here come this wicked nigga talking about look at this shit. So they hate us, man. They hate anything that's contrary to them. You know, that's the demons within them. Boy, this society, let me say something real quick. This society, how America is built, you know, it's not going to last. It can't last much longer, man. That's all I'm going to say. Verse 16. We are esteemed of him as counterfeits. He abstaineth from our ways as from filthiness. He pronounceth the end of the just to be blessed, and maketh his boast that the Most High is his Father. Yeah, you know, we abstain from their filthiness, man. We try to not eat the bullshit they eat. You know, go to these parties that they be at. You know, we separate ourselves from them. You know, does good have fellowship with evil? Does light have fellowship with darkness? They don't fucking know. And we don't boast in our works. We boast in that the Most High, you know, has you know, showed mercy to us and called us into this ministry. You know. Verse 17. Let us see if his words be true. Let us see if his words be true. And let us prove what shall happen in the end of him. Right? And they're about to see that in due time, because it ain't much time left in Babylon, and Esau's age is almost up. Right? Verse 18, for if the just man be the son of the Most High, he will help him and deliver him from the hand of his enemies. That's the same thing they did to Hamashiach Yahushua. If you be the son of the living power, why don't you bring yourself down from that cross, you know? Why don't you deliver yourself from our hands if you the king of the Jews? You know, they was mocking him. I'm pretty sure they're going to do that to certain bros when, you know, the persecution gets heavy. Yeah, if you a prophet, if you a righteous man, if you believe you a spiritual man, and if the Lord is for you, then why did he give you into my hands? Because they lack understanding, they lack wisdom. You know, so, you know, that's why the Lord really didn't even answer them. Because it ain't like they was going to understand no damn way. Verse 19 says, let us examine him with despitefulness. See, they despite us. And torture, that we may know his meekness and prove his patience. See, they want to torture us. They want to put hands on us, man. All right? That's why we tell you guys, this ain't no, you know, you got to count the cost. And counting the cost is knowing how important this is. You know, being a servant of the Lord. You know, you got all these psyops going on right now where they're trying to paint. They're always trying to, you know, you'll have like little uprisings and civil unrest. Then all of a sudden a so-called black militant group will pop up out of nowhere. Because they want to keep Jake face on the front of violence and, you know, and division. You know, because we're known as a peaceful group. All we do is teach the word, but they fucking want to paint us as criminals and domestic terrorists and extremists so they can really come down on us. And we're in the time of AI technology, so they can paint our image and likeness as they want to their liking. So, yeah. Continue reading, though. Let's continue reading. Let us condemn him with a shameful death, for by his own saying he shall be respected. So, yeah, we've seen a lot, the scriptures speak about a lot of righteous men being put to death. Right? Unjustly, just because the wicked despites them. Verse 21, such things they did imagine and were deceived, for their own wickedness have blinded them. As for the mysteries of Yahweh Shemel Shai, they knew them not, neither hope they for the wages of righteousness, nor discerned a reward for blameless souls. Yeah, we understand the mysteries because the Lord said he revealeth his mysteries unto the prophets. And we understand there is a reward for the servants and the prophets of the Lord. And we understand there's a kingdom coming where those men and those believers are going to be set on high. The wicked understand not. Verse 23, for the Most High created man to be immortal and made him to be an image of his own eternity. See, we ain't supposed to never die. We're supposed to live for eternity. But guess what? The fall of man is for our learning. You wanted to learn good and evil? Well, this is how you learn good and evil. You learn evil while evil is ruling. But we know the reward of immortality and eternity is coming. And we want to be set on high in that life of eternity. Verse 24, nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world, and they that do hold of his side do find it. Yeah, for what? For the wages of sin is death.